Welcome to Rambling of a Madman. Today, in this episode, I decided to talk to myself. If you are a madman, well, you have to talk to yourself. It comes with the job description. So, the first question I will be asking from myself would be why I am doing this. Well, I started this podcast maybe out of desperation or just because I have nothing to do at the moment. The life circumstances led me to some free extra time where I am able to create these podcasts at the moment. If you take the name was thought when I was just thinking, not now, but a long time ago. If I were to create a podcast, what would be the name that I would be using? And Ramblings of a Madman came into mind, but a small, let's say, auto correction when typing the email, it became from ramblings to rambling. Well, in the long term, I think it would pan out because there was already a ramblings of a madman. So here we are with rambling of a madman. Well, that's the starters for the end. And what is this podcast about? What should I talk about? That was the thing that was I was thinking, like, shall I talk about random topics, or shall I? Well, the best thing to do when you're talking a podcast, I thought, is to talk about what you like, so you have things to say. That end up me talking about the problems that I see in the society, and that how what are the problems actually. The episodes that I have recorded have talked about the problems and looking at these problems in different angles, but haven't given an answer. That is most probably a societal problem cannot have a single answer, or an answer from there can be opinions, but when a decision is taken in the society, it should be a collective thing, or at least I have to be professionally qualified to give opinion on that. So I normally tend to talk about the problem and think that the listener would listen to it and get some idea, get some view on that problem, which will help the society in a long way to understanding, and to see whether there is a problem that I talk about, there is or not. That was the general idea of it. What is the status of the podcast? Well, I didn't think much when starting the podcast. I just went into YouTube, typed in about starting a podcast, and there was immediate. I think the second video I watched, it gave all the instructions needed and directed me to Anchor. Well, how to give credit for Anchor, that it's a great app to start podcasting. I have a phone that is my recording device. I haven't invested a lot, and Anchor make things start very quickly and easily. I have released 5 episodes by this time. Today is 2020 July 26th. By this time I have uploaded 5 episodes, and I have created around 8 episodes. This should be the 9th, and I am just not releasing the rest because Basically, I'm waiting till my accounts in other podcast hosting sites are created. I found out that like in Google Play and I in Apple Play, these things take time to create. So I'm just biding my time. Then after that, I would be releasing this. If you are listening, well, the registrations have gone along smoothly, and here we are. Well, what else? What else? Well, next to look at is the types of episodes that I have published. The very first episode, well, I would sound strange a little bit because I was trying to stick to a script and it didn't pan out. Little by little, I tried to move into a more freestyle of speaking. It might work, it might not. That is to the listener to comment on that. Well, the first episode is about education and society. That I wanted to focus on whether the education we are having as children is enough to face the society today. Are we learning everything that we need to know about the society and the tools we have? Like when you are born and when you become an adult, you will automatically have access to different tools in the society when coming into financing, the law, your constitutional rights, the law of the country. These are all applicable automatically and you can access them whether you can vote or not. And is the education systems around the world are capable of handling that? That was the question that there was. The second was borders, but it's about a positive view at how in the current scenario of the pandemic era that borders are actually helping to control this. That is a different view on borders. I think there is no positive view on borders for a long time, but something that came into my mind and was harvested to create that podcast. Next is the hacked one, that is the general theory for information security, where you just keep on adding layers and layers of protection till the amount of to break the value that is needed to break that protection is greater than the data it's protecting. The fourth one was the level playing field of education. That is basically about free education, the pros and cons of free education. That's a debate that goes on in the society. The fifth one was about digital and cryptocurrency. This was spiked because when I typed in digital currency, it always talks about in a search bar, it always talks about cryptocurrency, but that cryptocurrency is a subsection of digital currency. And I think normal physical currency can be turned into digital as well. We normally say cryptocurrency for currencies that are based on the blockchain technology and not all currencies. So this problem in my head, that was the seed to that ramble, it is safe to say. Then the sixth one was universal healthcare. Well, frankly, I don't know why there are negatives to that in a civilized society. I don't know why this topic is still there, but it's there, and it is a problem and we have to solve it. Then the seventh one, luck. Well, it talks about the point that in people's life there is a small thing that is beyond your control in the society, in the environment, that that affects you negatively or positively, to help you or to take you down in your life. This could be sicknesses, this could be environmental factors or social factors, the stability of the country, economy, things like that, beyond something beyond your control. So this was a thing that was in my head for some time. Like, I looked at myself and I think, have I done something wrong? Should have done it differently at that time? And everything that happened to me is under my control, and thinking of that is the one that I was trying to define luck through that. Then of course the episode before this was about the fragile technological society we live in. That is to show that we have advanced so much that we have made our society fragile in technology wise. And is there a way? It's a real problem if a cataclysm happens, whether we can save the technology for the future or not. Well, then after that, it is this episode where I try to talk to myself. Well, it is for a change. It is to see some new kind of approach to podcasting. Well, frankly, it's working more easily. It's just talking about things, and I'm actually able to buy time through just talking, and talking to myself seems great at the moment. Well, the other question that was I was thinking about, looking at the topics that I have published, am I leaning towards a little bit of a socialistic area when I'm talking about these things? And well, it is hard to say. These are all problems in the society, and if you think through economic terms, financial terms, if you think through the economy or the capitalism, it's only about numbers. And when you have numbers, you cannot think in a human form. You cannot feel the empathy towards another human, because numbers and statistics doesn't have empathy in it. So I think this is the great collision in the society. It's not that it is the communism versus the democracy. Democracy, of course, wins through that category. The history has shown that. But when coming into the society, how do we look at it? Do we look at it from a purely economical view, where the numbers and the statistics and the probabilities matters, or do we look at a human point of view where empathy matters more, the humanity matters more, where then it tends towards a little bit of, so I think that's a natural way of turning into a path. It's a natural form of thinking if you are going to think about the society and the welfare of everyone. Then the thing I was thinking about was, why no big topics in this still? The biggest topic of the society as a whole at this moment, the Black Lives Matter movement is there. We talk about feminism, I think those two are the biggest topics. But there are more topics such as the modern day slavery is there, disasters happening, wars going on, the pandemic situation, and there is a little negative situation going on in United States with all the things. But to talk about these things, I was thinking, number one, I don't look at myself as a, a properly qualified person still yet talk about them, and I don't look at my podcast channel has grown into that level to go and talk to a specialist on those topics. So there will be a day in the future, there will be an episode in the future that I have looked into this and think that I have collected information enough, because complicated topics like this need people who have studied these topics throughout their life, to the people who have actual qualification to talk about them. So I will try to understand and try to give some term of it, and the vastness of those topics actually will take some time. So maybe as this podcast get mature, and when there is a time, if this podcast gets successful at all, or then there will be a time that naturally the demand will be there to talk about that topic. Maybe I will look into it, or if I have some thought, maybe I will, like, the natural path of this podcast will lead to those topics for sure. That is because if this podcast to talk about society and what are the problems in the society, then these topics will come through in the future. Well, it's 2020 July 26th, and what are the things happening around the world at the moment? Well, the main topic is in the news headlines and everywhere around the world, and the main topic should be, of course, COVID-19, the pandemic situation that is ongoing through 2020, which have unfortunately claimed around more than 640,000 lives around this time, and that is a very tragic situation that is unraveling. There are over 16 million cases, and from that 16 million, around 4 million is from United States, 2 million from Brazil, 1 million from India. Well, these numbers at the moment are the reality, and wearing a face mask is the new normal in the world, and it is gloomy out there. But well, a positive number would be 9 million have recovered, but still the infection rates around the world is way higher than the recovery rates. Well, then the other bad news is the pandemic situation have hit the economy hard. A lot of people have lost their jobs, and there are many especially small businesses that are having problems staying open because of this pandemic situation. So day by day economic activity goes down, and governments around the world start printing money and borrowing just to give some kind of relief to the economy and the people. So even in the economy wise, things are not happening in a good way. at present. And if you are listening, all I can say is the best of health for you and for your loved ones. It's a hard time for humanity, and but I hope that you and your loved ones go through this hard time without any pain, physically or mentally. Well, the other things to talk about what's happening in the present is COVID-19. The pandemic situation is actually crushing the other news that is going around the world. Cannot blame the situation because of the seriousness, but the other main news would be Black Lives Matter movement. We all know the incident; it shouldn't happen, but the gross path that the politicians have decided to take, has resulted in a very unfortunate situation for the country and the society itself. Humanity should not go down that path, especially especially in a country that we say the most developed. And I hope that there will be long-term solutions to resolve this matter, rather than acting on anger for misbehavior of politicians. I hope that there would be cooler heads taking better, proper decisions, and humans understanding humans to realize that we, whatever the color, whatever the religion, whatever the ethnicity, whatever the caste, whatever the division line is, we are all humans and we all feel pain. Well, beyond those two topics, there was a conflict in India and China border that went under the rugs. There were some other small newses that were there but was not able to meet the big standards, because the world is having that much of a issue with the pandemic situation and the racial tension that is going on. There are trade issues going on, and today itself China retaliated by closing a consulate in China because America closed one of the Chinese consulate in America. So the trade tension is going very high, and there's trade tension between Australia and China. There is tension between India and China. There are tensions in the southern China Sea with multiple countries and China. Well, this will affect the world very drastically, but I hope that again cooler heads will work things out, and rather than destroying multiple lives, because when we talk about China and India itself, we are talking about more than 2 billion people, and this is why that diplomacy should work for these things, because the people who are actually declaring these things will not feel it, but the economic tensions will be felt from bottom to top. of the society, economy wise or any other way. What the future holds? Well, it's hard to say at the moment. The most recent future will be more COVID cases, followed up by more tears, and the economies will suffer because of this in the short term and long term. These are given. The trade tensions and the blame game that is going on because of all this, the tensions are getting higher and higher. The economic situation and the COVID situation is not helping, because the more that stress it creates on humanity, the 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 other thing starts bubbling up. The it's everybody's on the edge and trying to blame the other. Well, things are like that at the moment, but a good news came along. There are been significant progresses made in a vaccination for COVID-19. So this is the one positive thing that we are hanging on, and factories, governments around the world is waiting for that positive result, and the ability to mass produce this. So in not the recent future, but in the next 6 months, it seems that there will be a vaccination for COVID-19 which will give an end to this horror. This is something positive that we can look forward to, and I think a lot of governments, societies, and the human race in whole is looking forward for this, to find a solution for COVID-19 that will result in easing of tensions of humanity, and maybe that will result in a positive way to grow the economy, to ease up tension, and humanity can concentrate on other things that are there. Yeah, and things, a positive thought, a silver lining is there for humanity in that sense. Well, this is rambling of a madman talking to himself, a new experimental way, just for a difference. I hope that this would be a success, as this podcast would be a success in the future. A new path, a new way, a different way for me, and hope that this makes impact on the society, at least even in an entertainment sense. In a broader sense, this will give some enlightenment, or people start thinking differently, or start thinking about the problems that there are in the society, which will lead to a positive outcome. That's the broader sense of it. Well, that's the talking to myself part for it. Of course, I can continue this on and on and on and on, because madman. Well, thank you very much for listening. I hope you the best of health, and the best of health for your loved ones. Be safe. Goodbye. Ayubowan.